Hi guys, I'm back again with some more stories for you today. Let's go to the first one, about OP's daughter, who was disinherited by OP's father because he didn't like her husband. Now OP wants to give her daughter a portion of her inheritance to match the amount, but there's one problem. Listen to the story to find out, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My son, 17 male, has been dating my friend's daughter, 18 female, for the last couple years. Their relationship has been solid, and the relationship started getting pretty serious. Last month, my friend called me, and he was upset because my son had cheated on his daughter. I was taken aback and thought there had to be some kind of misunderstanding. My son tried to explain that everything was a lie, and she was just trying to ruin his image. I initially believed my son and went to go and confront my friend. At this point, his daughter showed us an entire folder of evidence against him. It looked really bad, and I went home ashamed to even show my face to them. My son eventually admitted that most of what she was saying was true. I also pulled up the text logs from our phone provider to check the validity. I put off dealing with the situation as I had to travel overseas for work and didn't have time to investigate this. After I got back in town, I decided that I would take away the car that he had gotten on his 16th birthday. I decided to gift the car to his ex, and I contacted my friend to fill out the paperwork. He agreed on a time for us to deliver the car, and I made my son come with me to hand deliver it. When we got to my friend's house, his daughter had her new boyfriend and a few friends over. My son begged me not to make him give the keys in front of all her friends. I didn't really care and wanted to make sure he was shamed for what he did. He is complaining that this ruined his life, but that was kind of the goal. He can no longer drive to work, so he had to quit his job. He doesn't need the money, as I pay for everything. He will have to wake up an hour earlier for school to catch the bus, and he has to wait an extra hour to catch the bus back home. I wanted to show him what could happen if you cheat in a more high-stakes relationship. Am I the a-hole here? While OP can and should talk to his teen about why cheating is wrong, OP's punishment was over the top in my opinion. Public humiliation, taking away his property, taking away his ability to work, taking away his independence. That was a lot. The punishment should be related to the wrong and proportional to the wrong, and this was neither. OP could have temporarily taken his keys and used his words to explain that if he cheated in a marriage, that could cause a divorce and the permanent loss of his security and possessions, rather than the temporary loss of his punishment. Instead, OP tried to make things as bad as if he cheated on a spouse in an adult relationship. Because this looks like it was not shaming him for cheating. This was OP trying to save face with his friend. Don't you think so, guys? Alien Overlord 1001 says, "You're the a-hole. Gifting his car to his ex when she has a new boyfriend already? Seriously? Sounds like she got over it pretty fast. Sure, he was crappy with what he did, but this was not your business. It was their relationship and his life. If he wants to be a crappy boyfriend, he will soon learn that no one will want to date him. This action was more about you saving face for yourself, not for him. If he is old enough to be in an adult relationship, then he is old enough to deal with his own messes. He's still growing up. He will make mistakes, as we all did at that age." Dre Power says, "Yeah, you're the a-hole. Humiliation and having him lose his job is not the way to go. This may destroy the relationship you had with your son. You and your friend should have left these two to deal with it on their own. They are not little children." Antelope 31 says, "You're the a-hole. Extraordinarily so. What the duck? This is your kid. Kids make mistakes. Way to ensure your kid knows you will never have their back, and to hide any mistakes from you forever going forward. Never going to you for help or guidance. You are 100 times the a-hole he ever was cheating, as a teen in a teen relationship that was never any of your business to investigate or get involved in whatsoever. You stole a gift, intentionally humiliated him, etc. You never made any mistakes as a teen? What the hell kind of ungracious and sadistic arrogant person are you? You valued trying to impress your equally busybody friend over your own son. This could have been handled so much better, privately, with a real conversation about integrity and asking him what kind of man he wants to become. Then you stay the heck out of it. You should be a soft place to fall, the person he can go to when he makes mistakes and needs support to best learn from them. Your behavior was genuinely shameful." I'm writing this from my friend's basement, since I was kicked out of my house for this one a few days ago. My wife and I are in our mid-40s and no kids, and solid jobs in finance here in the U.S. My wife is from a foreign country. We met and got married in our mid-20s. However, most of her family is from her home country in Asia, including her parents, who she flies out to USA once or twice a year and stays for an extended period of time before they go back home. Her parents are in their 80s. 6 months ago, my wife's mother was diagnosed with a type of colon cancer, and in her country, there's not the advanced type of care required for this. My wife wanted her parents to come live with us permanently and seek treatment in the U.S., and I agreed because it's obviously the right thing to do for her family. Her mother's prognosis was fairly grim, and it was found out that the disease was spreading, and we were given the options of either aggressive chemotherapy or the latter, which is to make her as comfortable as she can be in her final months. My wife and family opted for the chemo, which I was on board with, even though they have no insurance and each treatment was a huge hit to our savings. After 4 or 5 months of treatment and piling medical bills in excess of $400,000, the treatments are still ongoing. I plan on calling the hospital and try to negotiate that down to maybe half the amount, since I read on Reddit on another thread that this might be possible. But as it stands currently, if I paid all of this, it would wipe out all of our savings, plus about half of my 401k after withdrawal penalties are calculated. I've been supportive and willing to take on the financial burden, although I've thought to myself that it is time to give up. I've never said this to my wife or her family and have been outwardly supportive, but inside I've been struggling and worried about the future. A few days ago, I was at a bar with my friend and discussing my true feelings about the entire situation. The bar was a little loud, so I did have to speak up a little bit in order to hold the conversation. I told my friend that I've been feeling inundated with these bills ever since about the midway point of the treatments. And again, although I've put on a smile and want the best for my wife's family, internally, I wanted the financial bleeding to stop and just wanted my mother-in-law to die comfortably in hospice care. Unfortunately, my wife's best friend was sitting behind us at the bar, unbeknownst to me, and heard all of this. She called my wife right away. My wife and I had a huge argument when I got home, and I guess my argument the entire time was that my actions of supporting the medical treatments should have been enough, and quoting a show I recently watched, that thoughts are not treason. None of this went over well, and hence why I'm out of the house. So, am I the a-hole? Well, I understand it was a hard decision to make for OP's wife. She only wants her mother in her life as long as possible, and OP is thinking rationally. OP is being perfectly reasonable to think that wiping out all his savings in retirement to keep someone alive for another year or two is not a great idea. At the same time, OP's wife is perfectly reasonable to think that OP putting money before the health of her loved ones is bad. What was overheard was OP venting his internal frustration to a friend in what was supposed to be a private setting. Seeing the savings that OP has spent decades saving for his own future, seeing all that preparation go out the window is a lot to deal with, especially since OP worries about how him and his wife will retire now that much of the savings is gone. That is not an unreasonable concern, and not an unreasonable thing to vent about to a close friend in a private conversation. OP needs to talk to his wife and have an open and honest conversation. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Venomous Frost says, "No a-holes. You might be the rational person, but this is mostly an emotional decision for your wife. This is way too complicated, and a bunch of Redditors' opinions in this are irrelevant, including mine." Cat's Eyes 77 says, "No a-holes, except that friend of your wife. You have every right to spill your guts to your friend and feel overwhelmed by this debt. Your wife is also overwhelmed, and it probably feels like betrayal to her, but she is emotionally spent. Give it a little cool-down period and have a good talk. I hope you figure it all out." Dat Dude B-Dub says, "Not the a-hole. Paying that much money and jeopardizing your future, retirement, to prolong the life of someone already in their 80s is just flat-out not a financially sound decision. It isn't like you put your foot down, or even directly said this to your wife. You made a comment to a friend that another friend overheard. You've been supportive. To be honest, I agree that the best thing for her is to die comfortably. You can spend $500,000 on medical bills, but what will that get you? Another 2 years? 3? At what quality of life? Definitely not the a-hole." My 25 male, sister, 27 female, called me yesterday asking for a favor. She said it with such ease that I thought it was something easy, like getting her something to eat or whatever. Well, she asked me to see if I could take money out of my 401k, U.S. retirement plan. Here's some history. My sister has 3 kids, 9 male, 3 female, and 7-month-old male. The father of the first 2 children was heavily into D and passed away from it. Honestly, I understood my sister's grief, but was ultimately relieved she didn't have him in her life. When this guy passed, her current fiancé decided to swoop in while my sister-in-law was still grieving her partner. As she already had some emotional and mental damage before the original relationship, I could see why she easily fell for this new guy. They lived together for a few months. She got pregnant. He decided to move to Mexico to get clean. He then denied being the father of this child and ghosted my sister, with a lot more stories involved. Until recently that he got into the picture again. Before he got into the picture again, my sister decided to throw my niece and nephew a huge party that followed our Mexican traditions. Well, these parties can cost a lot of money. On top of the party, she decided she's going down to Mexico to visit said man so that he can meet his son. Thus, the reasoning she asked me to get money out of my 401k, as she knows I wouldn't have the amount she needs saved up. I told her I would think about it. She has borrowed me a large sum of money in the past, college years, when I got in a rough patch with my serving job. But I've already paid her back. I have a decent paying job for my age, and I've never said no to borrowing anyone anything, including money. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a pushover either, so most people wouldn't think about asking me. But I don't think it's appropriate for me to take out any money from my 401k to borrow my sister for a party and, indirectly, for her to visit this guy. Am I the a-hole for saying no? Positive Source 8205 says, "You'll pay a huge tax penalty for taking money out of your retirement fund at your age." Knackle09 says, "Not the a-hole. Do not do it. There's a hefty tax penalty. It would be different if there was an emergency situation that maybe it could be more justifiable. This is not one of those times." Montana Wild Wyman says, "Not the a-hole. 401k isn't a typical account, and you personally can be charged heavy fees and taxes for withdrawal like that. If the guy really wanted to meet his kid, he should be paying anyway. Your 401k shouldn't be used for your sister's vacation to see that deadbeat." Context: my father had an affair with a younger woman when my sister and I left for college, and she got pregnant. My mom divorced my father due to this, and we've cut connection with him due to this. He and the woman stayed together for a few years, and then he left her and his daughter and started yet another family with another woman. I don't know all the details, but he sends child support to the woman he had a daughter with and left. She got into D a few years after that, and last I heard, she's not been taking care of the daughter. That fell on the grandma of the half-sister. Recently, I get calls from a number, and I ignore it because I don't know anyone from the area code. Then I just picked up randomly, and it's the grandma of the half-sister. She tells me that she wants me to take my half-sister temporarily while she goes through chemo for osteosarcoma. I questioned her as to how long this arrangement will last, and she said a month or 2. She assured me it would only be temporary, but I kept questioning her as to why the girl doesn't just stay with her and maybe even help with cleaning and cooking. She's 13 by now, so mostly self-sufficient. The grandma kept telling me she's already called to her brother, my father, her daughter, and no one will help. I told her I'd think about it and hung up. I, reluctantly, called my father, and he told me the diagnosis for the grandma is not great, and chances are whoever gets his daughter will be forced to take care of her indefinitely if the grandma passes. I made it clear it was his kid, so he should be taking the kid, but he said he paid his child support, and he never wanted a child. It was just an accident. We had a yelling match, and I'm pretty disgusted by him, but he clearly only paid child support and wants nothing more to do with her. I called the grandma and told her I can't help, and her only recourse is to sue my dad into helping, or getting her daughter to, and she cried and told me she doesn't have time for that, and my stepsister will probably go to CPS, as the hospital and school already know she's sick, and her granddaughter is basically unsupervised. She's apparently dealing with her issues by doing D, drinking, and running away at night with her boyfriend, and the grandma is worried she might get pregnant. To be clear, I don't want to help. I don't think I have a direct obligation to. My father and her mom made her. They have to step up. But her mom is on D, and my father made it clear he isn't participating. My wife and mom both made it clear it would be a terrible idea for me to get involved, and we have a 5-year-old, so it will disrupt our lives as well. But I can't help feeling guilty for not wanting to help. Kronkla Swarta says, "Not the a-hole. You feel guilty because you are a nice person, but that doesn't mean you, your wife, and your kid needs this in your life right now. The 13-year-old is already drinking, doing D, and running around. Your dad needs to step up. The best you can do is help with legal costs to sue your dad for child support. CPS might be your best chance. Frito's rule says, you have a 5-year-old. Do you really want to bring a troubled stranger with D issues in for an indefinite stay? Not the a-hole. I get feeling guilty, but under no circumstances do you take her in. Edit. I'd also block them from your numbers. Go no contact. Avocados don't bite says, not the a-hole. I feel terrible for this young lady, but this is not your responsibility. Bringing a 13-year-old with D issues, drinking, behavioral problems, who likes to stay out all night with a boyfriend into your home would be a nightmare. It's awful that she got this lot in life, but with her mother's D problem, it's little surprise. Bringing her into your home will only make a nightmare situation for your daughter. The grandmother needs to be putting pressure on your father. It's his daughter.